This program may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Discretion is advised. When you look into the face of darkness, it stares back at you. The question is, who's watching who? Welcome to the dark side. This is the Watchers Paranormal Podcast.
I present to you Ghosts of the ER, Season 1, Episode 1, The Morgue Attendant. You could tell it was a busy night at the morgue. Rows of empty stretchers lined the halls. The morgue attendant glances up, looks at the clock. It's about 2:30 in the morning. Realizes that he's left a few lights on. He's going to return back, close a few doors, and start closing up for the night. He makes his way down the hall, checks the door latches, makes sure everything's good. Walks down, shuts a few lights. Hears like a little bit of wind howling. He figures there's a draft coming in, so he goes down the other side of the hall, checks the door. It's closed. He hears the sound again of a howling wind. As he reaches the source, he notices that the light that he had just turned off merely seconds earlier was now on and flickering in the hall. He's been down there alone since 5 in the afternoon, with the exception of some porters coming down delivering the bodies. He's had no human contact. So he wonders perhaps if security's down there. So he calls for security, and of course no one answers. Goes down, he shuts the light off, walks down the hall, makes his way to his office. Now he's starting to shut things down for good, unplugs his computer, checks his messages one more time before he leaves. And then he hears that odd sound coming from the end of the hall. It sounds like a low howling wind. And this time he gets shivers down the back of his neck. Every hair stands up. And now he knows something really unusual is going on, because he's trying to just put this off as just being tired from a long day. But he goes down, starts walking down the hall, and there's that same light flickering. But as he's walking down the hall, he just feels weird. He feels sick to the pit of his stomach. So he keeps walking down, and of course, he glances over to his right, and there's an old porcelain sink, like a trough, with a large faucet. It was used in the old days as a pre-op area where the doctors and nurses would scrub and get ready for surgery. The light starts to flicker again, and he's feeling that sick sensation in his stomach again, and he starts to look around him like he's being watched. He's paranoid all of a sudden. And then to his amazement, right next to the sink, a man materializes in front of his eyes. He's dressed in green scrubs. He's got the mask on his face, he's got the cap, he's got the gown, and he's going through the motions like he's getting ready for surgery. He starts to wash his hands, but yet there's no water coming from the faucet. The morgue attendant just stands there in horror, watching all of this. And he calls out to the man and says, "Hey man, who are you?" And this apparition turns around, looks him square in the eye. At this point, the morgue attendant almost passed out. The apparition turns around and continues scrubbing and scrubbing, paying no attention whatsoever to the morgue attendant. Then just as quick as he appeared, he disappeared right in front of his eyes again. It was only now that the morgue attendant realized that This whole time, the apparition had no legs. Standing there, frozen, not being able to move, witnessing all of this, he got the courage to turn around slowly and start making his way down the hall, right past his office door, ran up the stairs, ran out of the building. The next morning, he called in sick for work. Took a couple of days off. When he returned, he had a meeting with his manager in HR, and he explained to them what he had seen a couple of nights before. They both looked at each other and thought, this can't be real. Now, this guy's very credible. He's been there for a very long time. There was no reason for him to make up these things. But he insisted what he saw was true and was real. He then handed in a resignation. No 2 weeks notice, nothing. He quit on the spot and vowed never to return back to that place. Several months ago, I spoke with my friend who gave me the story. Asked him if he had been in contact with the morgue attendant. He said no. Sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago. I recently went down to that same hospital. Took a walk down that hall, past the morgue door, down to the end and to the right. And that sink still sits there to this day. There's a cage light that hangs above that. I stood in the same place as the morgue attendant that night. I looked around. It was an eerie feeling. I stood there and glanced around. Heard a little bit of wind, but it sounded like it was coming from underneath the metal door leading to the loading dock. I turned around a couple more times, closed my eyes, hoping that when I opened them, I would see something. Nothing happened. So I turned around, made my way back down the hall, and as I was doing so, the light started to flicker.